Today we're going to work on blending two pictures together. A lot of times I will blend maybe another person into an image, or you can also use it to blend flowers or vases or other objects together into the same image. The one I have on the screen right now is a picture of Jim and Sherry within our camera club, one of the field trips we took, and I looked at that picture and I thought, maybe they should be walking a little closer together. This is a very simple one to do because the background is pretty much the same all the way across. What I've done first, or recommend first to do, is I took and cropped Jim out of the picture first and made a separate image altogether and brought that in. That's the image that I'm going to paste into the other one. Over on the right hand side, I'm going to come up here and where it says background, I'm going to change the layer name to say layer, and I usually start out with 01, so I'm only going to use one layer, but if I was to use another layer, then I could use layer 2, layer 3, but in this case we're only going to use layer 1. So we've changed the name to layer 1. I'm going to go back to the original picture. I'm going to come down to the bottom to the photo bin, and I'm going to grab and hold down my mouse on Jim, and I'm going to drag him up and drop him over here next to Sherry. Now I need to go over here on the right hand side and grab the move tool, which has captured him. I'm going to bring him down a little bit. I can also try to put him in proportion with his wife. I know he's a little bit taller, but he's going to be a little bit further forward. Click down below. In order to complete, anytime you move something or crop something, you always have the button at the bottom of the green check to say OK, or the red to cancel it. Now I click over on the side, and that's pretty close to being about in proportion. Okay, so we've placed Jim in there, but you'll notice the background and stuff is close but doesn't match up completely. We're actually gonna crop him out later. If we come back up to the upper right hand corner, you want to make sure that the layers is on the same one that Jim is. You can see in the center of that little box, just a partial one, and it's not the background. We're going to go up to the top where it says add layer mask. That's the blue box with the hole in the middle. We're going to click on that. Make sure that one stays highlighted. See, if I move those around a little bit, that becomes unhighlighted. We want to make sure that that's got a little blue circle or blue square around the outer edge. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come over here with the magnifying glass. We're going to blow this up so it's a little easier to work with so you can see what we're doing. We can do this several ways, but we're going to do it with the brush on this one. If we bring the brush over, we got to make sure that our color palette on the left hand side is got the black on the top. When we use the paintbrush, that has to be black. That draws through the image from behind. If you'll watch as I come down through there, how it will match up the image up from behind and bring that right on in. Same way on the other side. If you watch, if I come down his arm, and it will actually blend in the background from behind him, or from the it'll blend in the background from the image behind. As you can see, and like I said, this is a fairly simple one because the background is pretty much the same and doesn't change, except that it's just got to be aligned a little better. As you can see, we can go up across here, catch this across the top of his hat. We're going fairly quick because I want to get this done. So down over the side. Now, there's going to be times you're going to make a mistake. I've done it. We've all done it. I accidentally went, oops, and cut right into his arm. If you come back over your color palette and reverse it and put the white on the top, the white replaces it with the layered one, the forward one, and puts it back. So if you do make a mistake and then go back over to the other side to the color palette and bring it back to the black, and we can come on down. You can see the line coming down here where the two images are just a little bit different. And we can come right on down the side here and make sure that all of this blends in with the previous picture. Come right on down the side of him. Like I said, this one is fairly simple. The backgrounds are pretty much the same, so this is going to go fairly fast. Come down here. Come down the side of his leg. Oop, get my mouse back up there. How we can blend all that in. Get rid of this. You can see the beach and the little waves coming in. We'll line right back up. If you notice, I cut in a little bit too far on his feet. I'll come back to that. Come down the other side of his leg. Back up this way. Get rid of the rest of the old layer. And again, come back over to the other side, change the color palette back to white on the top. And that will all come right back in. Now, and then go change it back. Because she is standing a little more in the sand, his feet kind of look like they might be a little more not in the same position. You can come down here to the bottom and move the quality of the picture back down to maybe about 20%. Make this a little bit smaller, the size of my brush. And I got to change that back to the other way and kind of bring some of that back in there and then go back and change it. I can bring a little bit, just kind of make the edge of his toes there like he's got some sand on him, maybe a little bit of water, and make it look a little bit more like the original one. Looked the wrong way. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my magnifying glass. I'm going to reduce that down. There is some stuff on the edges I usually spend a little bit more time on. You can got them turned around again. Once I brought that up a little bigger, you can see there's some along the edges and stuff. You need to work on that, and you can always go back and do that right now and do a little finer work along the edges. We're doing this fairly quick so we can get through the presentation. Now I'm going to go back to the magnifying glass. I'm going to reduce it down. Whoops, I see a little spot there. I just need to do something with it. It's on his arm. There we go. Back to the magnifying glass. Let's bring it down to the same as. Now I've got Jim there. I think I can still move Jim down just a little bit. I think that looks a little more in proportion with him and Sherry. Maybe even a little bit more. And maybe move him up a little bit. How does that look? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to crop over on the left-hand side under crop. I'm going to crop this as a, say, 4x6. Bring it over about like this, over to the edge. Still got the bottom part of him, their feet. Maybe that's a little bit too. Bring that in, bring it up to about there, bring it down a little bit, and if that looks good, we're going to click on the yellow check mark. Now we have Jim and Sherry standing on the beach together. Now when we also save that, save as, the first time in it's going to ask you to save that as what's called a PSD, which is a print shop file If you save that as a print shop file, when you come back in and you want to make a change or you have to leave and come back, it remembers everything you've done. If you open that file back up, you can just go on all of your strokes, all of your clicks will remain in that file. It's a tracking file and it will remember you. So when we get all done, we end up with this, and you can come back up here under File, Save As, come down here at the bottom and come back down to JPEG and save your picture. That takes care of that one for right now. We're going to remove both of those. We have one more quick one we want to do. This is one of my wife and a granddaughter taken on a trip with her as we came back down from up north and came through the old Smoky Mountains. At the same time, I had a picture in my file of Fort Myers Beach, and what I wanted to do was blend Jan and Regan into Fort Myers Beach rather than standing in front of the block wall. We're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to come over here on the right hand side. We're going to change that to layer 1. We're going to come back over to the beach picture. I'm going to come down to the bottom where it says Photo Bin. Open that up. I have 2 pictures left. I'm going to drag the picture of them up and on top of the beach picture. Again, it's probably a little bit too big. We can adjust that picture. And we're going to adjust it later anyhow a little bit more. I can just put it up here in the middle for right now, and we can always adjust it later. We're going to do the same thing with this picture as we did with the other one. If you come up in the upper, okay, we have the image over the top of the beach image. If we come up here in the upper right-hand corner again, we want to go up towards the top here where the blue box with the hole in the middle. When you move your mouse over, that's going to say Add Layer Mask. Again, it needs to have the blue outline around that box before it's functionable. We're going to start this time. Again, we're going to kind of enlarge that just a little bit. Makes it a little easier to work with. This time we're going to use magic wands on this one. And sometimes it works great. Sometimes you have to work at it. There is a magic wand down here in the corner. Magic wand tool, which you can come up here and a lot of times will kind of clear stuff out. If I bring that up here just above their head in that gray area and click, it will highlight an area. And I'm going to show you a couple tricks here if you haven't used them before. I want to cut out just what I marked. So I can come up here to edit. At the same time, notice over here it says cut, and you can also use control keys. I live with control keys. Control key, Control X is the same thing as cut. We do have to reverse this. It's different than when we use the brush. We use the wand. We have to have the white palette on the top, the black on behind. So I'm going to come back in here again. I'm going to click. I'm going to go up here to edit, come down to cut. Oh, and you can see that part of the background already came out. I'm going to come over here and try another little area. Now I'm going to start using the Control X key. And you can see I can come up here and cut the next little block out of the way. Up here you can see, and this is the part that's really nice to use that sometimes because you don't have to drag your brush all the way along the edge. It outlined like the side of her head. You can cut a bigger area at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the background off to show you what's actually going on. What's happening is anytime you see the pattern of checkerboard, that means that background is transparent. So if I come up here, let me go back and get my magic wand. Come up here and click on this. You can see sometimes it goes a little quicker sometimes, but it gets the majority of it out of the way. Click, cut, click, cut, click, cut, and you can remove a lot of it fairly quick. You can see coming down the side of her arm. You don't have to try to follow that line, especially in between their heads here, trying to get in between there. We'll have to go back in there and do some cleaning up on it, but the majority of it will be done. Come right on down the side of her arm there. This takes care of a big portion of it we don't have to mess with. We'll come over here and get the other side. And then there's another tool in here. We come back down to the lower left-hand side. It's called Select Brush Tool. And what it's going to be is very similar to the brush. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller here. We're going to go over here on the right side and start over there. What you'll see, it's going to draw dotted lines around the brush stroke there, and I can come down here to the bottom. But it's like an eraser. I can come in here and I can mark that whole area in there. And didn't have to do that much to that to get rid of those little spots that it missed. And then again, Control X. It's gone. I'm going to go over here while I'm down here. I'm going to do the other side and try to get that cleaned up a little bit. Using the magic wand, cleaned up a big portion of it. We just have to kind of come along and kind of clean up what it missed. Control X. Come back up here. Same thing here. She had some spots along here, along her arm. Some of this, even if you get a little bit in on her arm, is not going to show because of the background. It'll blend in with the background. I'm also going to go clear up here and try to catch all this at the same time. Okay, if you make a mistake coming down that side there, and let's say you did by chance come in here too far and chopped a little piece out and you spotted it right away, you've got a undo at the bottom. You can go down and click on that. It'll put you back to where you were. You've always got an undo, but you got to do the undo fairly quick, because otherwise you got to do an undo. If you've done 3 or 4 more steps after that, then it's got to be an undo. At the same time here, we're going to try to get this cleaned up a little bit more. Go across the top of her head. We'll clear across, come clear down. If you've got a big area, you can also increase the size of the brush. But when I work around the people themselves, I like to keep the brush fairly small. And I'm going to show you, we're going to make it a little bit smaller here in a minute. Control X. See, we've gotten that down. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer on it because I want to get some of this other stuff. You can see what I've missed in here. I'm going to go back to the brush. Now the brush is going to be too big. Bring the brush down a little bit smaller. I can come back along here. That blue sign behind her head showed through. Something else I missed. Come back down that way. I can come back down here kind of between their heads. Back up here and catch that. I see a couple spots over here on the other side that I've kind of missed. I will pick those up. Hit the Control X. Bring this down a little more. Catch that along there. Actually, those are not going to show, but again, I like to get them as close as I can to being correct. And we're going to hit spots where we're going to have to bring the brush down a little bit smaller. You can see I've got that brush down fairly small, and then back this way. Now, you can hit areas that you want to make it a little more sharper. If you'll look at what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try to square this up. So I'm going to bring it down into her shoulder, then come back over on the lower left side, click on subtract. Then I can come back and subtract that line. And at the same time, it's going to make it more defined in that along the corner. Now, if you got to make squares and stuff, square corners, that's when that works out a lot better. I can maybe show you that in a different video. So all of a sudden I can do a Control X. I'm going to go back up here to the zoom in and out. Let's zoom it back. Okay, we're going to go back to the zoom. We're going to zoom this back out now. Quicker way to get it in the middle of the screen is down here where it says full screen. Click, and it's got us in the center. That's our picture with a transparent background. When we come back to the layers on the right hand side, you can see we have a slash mark on that background layer. We're going to click on that, which will undo it. Now we can come back over. You can see our Fort Myers Beach is there, the kids are there. I can come back over on the left hand side, the move tool. I can move this anywhere around here. I can bring it down and make it a little bit, if I want to make it a little bit more in portion, kind of wherever you want to put it. You can put it off to the side so you can see a little bit more of the beach. You're going to bring it down to the bottom in this case because it's the bottom part of the image. And at the same time, you got that about where you want it. Go down, hit the green check mark, click somewhere else on the screen, and you've transferred the kids into the Fort Myers Beach picture. Again, save it, do a save as. It's going to ask you first to save it as a PSD, which is a working file. And if you close that out and come back in and do a save as again, you can come in, save as, come down here where the save type is, hit the down, come down here, change it to JPEG, and click on save. That's a very simple way, easy way. It's not rocket science, but you can blend people from another picture into this picture. You can move a person like we did in the first one, and then people won't know the difference. Just to go back and do a quick review of what we just did, here's a picture of Jim and Sherry on the beach. The first thing we did was crop Jim out. Once we cropped him out, we blended him back in with Sherry in this area right here, and then cropped them out to a 4:6, and when we got done, we ended up with this. The second one we did was a picture of Fort Myers Beach that I had taken somewhere along the lines. Our granddaughter, my wife, in the old Smoky Mountains this last summer. And when we got all done, I have blended them into the Fort Myers Beach pictures. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you watch our future videos, and have a good day.